It's a new year, which is supposed to mean reflection, renewal, and a fresh start. But what if our technology won't let us pause long enough to actually begin again? Tonight we're exploring time, identity, and the myth of the reset button. How algorithms that never forget, systems that never stop, and tools that constantly measure us are reshaping what it even means to change. If our past is always present and optimization replaces reflection, can we still reinvent ourselves? Or are we just refining old versions of who we used to be? We've got another big panel this week. Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, welcome, and Happy New Year. It's 2026. So happy to have all of you with us. Please, God, sorry, that was religion. That's just how I usually say it. Please, hopefully this will be a good year for everyone, a peaceful year for everyone, a year of lots and lots of learning and growing, because that's what it's all about. We have a huge panel to learn from tonight with lots of familiar faces and at least one new one. But I'm really happy to have Dave and Tamara and Tony and John and Lois, some of our regulars, and Alex, who is now officially a regular, even though this will be his last show. But 2 times makes you a regular, I think.
Had to get it in just for the last.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. And Tlalak, we're so happy you're here.
Great to be here.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. I always enjoy watching the show, and I always feel like I want to interrupt and say no, or
Good.
yes.
Good.
But now I can.
That's exactly what we do here. You were in Seattle, you said? Is that where you were last night?
I'm in Seattle now. I'm working on a show at the Seattle Opera, and I'm it's New Year's Day, so I decided I could take some time and do a thing.
There you go. And Alex, how far are you from Seattle? I mean, you're North California, but
Yeah, it's still. I mean, it's a long drive.
it is.
Like
Okay.
18 hours or something.
18 hours?
It's still a long.
Oh my
Yeah, it would
Lord.
take still quite some time to drive up there. It's only about an hour and a half to fly, so it's
Gotcha.
usually a flight is or hour and a half. It's a pretty quick flight, but it's still there's no super direct way because of the coast. There's no super direct way to drive, so you end up taking a little bit of a roundabout way to do it. But
Does Highway
I've gone
1
many times.
continue that far north?
It does.
It does, yeah.
It does. It winds along the. It's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
I've gotten to go
super
up a little
beautiful.
bit north. The real fun is when you get north of where I live, and you start going through, up through Bodega Bay and then Jenner, and then you get into the Lost Coast. So
Wow.
you Bodega Bay, Jenner, and then there's Fort Bragg. You go a little bit further up, and then you get into Mendocino, and then you go into the Lost Coast, and it's just very undeveloped, all the way
Nice.
through Oregon and so on and so forth. It's a really beautiful area.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, panelists, I didn't really announce this, but I am putting you on the spot in our news tonight. So you're going to have this 10-second stinger to think about it. What is the one technology that most impacted your life in 2026? So, the one technology that impacted your life most in 2026, I'm going to start with Tamara.
It is still Zoom. The last 6 years, it's been Zoom. It has given me more opportunities. There's been more things to learn this year, so that's been the big thing. I paired it a little bit more with AI this year, where I was able to use my generative AI in different ways, as from moving it from entertainment to being an educator and a collaborator. But it's still Zoom.
Amazing. Lois.
Well, we've only had one day of 2026, so
Wait, that should have said 2025. Oh, my God.
oh,
No,
Oh, you mean
technology that's
last
impacted your life in
year.
2025. I'm sorry. That's funny.
that would be a car. We got an electric plug-in Prius hybrid car.
Well, there you go. Nice. Dave, what do you think?
Well, I got a new toaster this year, and it's fabulous. I've a Cuisinart, and it's got more real control over what you can do with toast, and it makes the best, most even toast I've ever had in my life. I've owned a lot of toasters. This one is fabulous.
Have you ever watched Mr. Who's the Boss, the tech reviewer?
No,
He's out of the UK. He's great, and he just recently did food companies that create tech. And there's one
air fryers and
that made a fancy schmancy toaster, and it made what he said was the perfect piece of toast. So that's all you
there's
need.
a $3,000 Japanese version, but I can't afford that.
No, I don't blame you. Tlalak, a piece of technology that most impacted you this past year.
So this is very niche, but something I've mentioned in office hours as well. But there's a new program that I started to get into called VOR. And what VOR does is it allows you to overlay lighting cues on top of a video of the show that you're working on. And I find that to be a game changer in my work, because sometimes we have a very short amount of time to build the cues for the theater pieces that we're working on, the opera pieces that we're working on. What this allows me to do is scrub through the whole show, and it shows me, on the record, and it shows me exactly what cue I'm in at any given moment. I can make a choice about making notes in that, even if I don't have the, the actors there with me. And it gives you not only the cue number, but also the elapsed time since the last cue, and you can set it to take still images of each cue and have it be automated by the lighting console. So super niche, but it's changed my workflow completely.
That the best tools. I mean, I'm jumping the gun here because this is going to be mine. But the best tools are the ones that just expedite or simplify one little thing in your life that really makes your life substantially better. I think.
And there were a couple of lighting designers, Jessica Krieger and a couple of others, that put it together during the pandemic. So a lot of things that we talk about grew up in the pandemic, and this was one of those things that they had some time. They built it, and it's all over Broadway now. So it's kind of a fantastic thing.
That's VORE?
VOR, and it's I think it's getvor.app.
Great. Getvor.app. Awesome. Thank you. John, what you got?
Reliable power, and considering the storms and winds that we had, having the batteries work and being able to take some frozen goods from my neighbors who did not have electricity. So that was probably the tech that impacted me the most in 2025. Although I've been enjoying playing with new apps, and I am very happy with what Zoom is doing, particularly with NDI this year. So that's helping my workflow.
Great. Fantastic. That NDI announcement at the end of the year was a very nice little addition they gave us. Tony.
It's hard for me, really hard. But I'm going to say, I want to say Zoom, but since Tamara said it, I'm going to say ChatGPT / Mimo Live.
Do they go together?
Well, I use both of them extensively for House of Worship, and not saying after I said that, now I have to say, well, really and truly, the thing that I used the most in 2025 was Canva.
Really?
So I have to throw those two out.
Yep, I'm with you on Canva. Alex, what you got?
Yeah, I think a lot of us, you think about all the cool things that we do, and then you realize that almost all of these are like fixed little problems. Like, these are like bread and butter things. And so as everyone else was talking, I was thinking about, like, what really impacted what I did as Airtable. So I, built a lot of things in numbers, built a lot of things but when it's really hard once you start using Airtable to look at any of your spreadsheets the same way again. It is because my ability to look at the data, resort the data, so I have one database, but I have 12 different ways of looking at that data and that are sorted in different ways and grouped in different ways. And, I'm dealing with the project that I'm working on right now. I've got 100 theaters and 400 screens, and all of them have different projectors and sound systems and processes. And, there's all these things that are all in a giant database, but I can't look at all of that at the same time. I need to be able to say, okay, show me all the ones that I can't show you the data. Otherwise it'd be much more interesting if I could do that, but group them all and only show me the auditoriums that I've selected in each theater, and then show me all the data about those auditoriums, or group everything by the kind of audio pipeline that we're going to use, or by the projectors that are being used, or by the ICMPs and I can group all of those, and I don't have to keep sorting. I just it's all live data. It's all the data is all there. It's simply me having different ways of looking at that data. And then we can publish interfaces that the clients can see so that they don't have to dig into the data. Here's just a bunch of summaries for you to look at so you understand what's going on, and we're constantly updating those. And I will say that we've kind of hacked our way through it. I didn't take any lessons. It's just mostly like, and some of them are, ChatGPT, which was what Tony was mentioning. Some of the summaries are like, I just tell ChatGPT, this is what I want to do in Airtable, and it says here's an equation, and I plug it in, and the numbers look right.
Yeah.
so the and then you just go okay, and it's doing those calculations in real time. But it's a pretty amazing. Again, not something that I put off because it's expensive to use, especially.
I'm back. Sorry.
And that was it. Yeah.
So it's funny because I used to use this, and I'm wondering. I'm looking at the pricing now. Oh yeah, it is per seat, $20 per seat per month.
Yeah, it adds up if you say we've got like 15 people in it or 20 people in it, so it's a lot of money to spend every month. But the issue, and we have the 20 is the start.
That's the bottom, right?
We have one that's more complicated and more expensive than that. I think it's like $75 a person or something.
Yeah.
But it gives us a lot of controls and a lot of things that we need to have, and and we're dealing with a lot of data, and it's really fascinating because one of our partners. It's obvious that they use the Airtable because anytime we need to update anything, they just merge their they just merge the data in, and boom, it's all updated, and everything's all there. And again, it's not for everybody, and I didn't need it until this project. But if you're dealing with a lot of data on an ongoing project and you need to be able to see it, I don't know what else to use. I don't know what else I would use to be able to. I would have not in Excel numbers sheets. I would have died. Yeah. like this is like it wouldn't. It was kind of and it was pushed by Mark East, who's the owner of Own I Know, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I really want to learn something new. And he's like, no, I really think we need to think about this, and so I went ahead and stuck my head into it. And I was like, oh, I think this will work. And then after that, it was just amazing.
That's great. That's fantastic. So mine is Lovable. That is, why is my button not working? Button. I'll just go like this then. I have built so many apps in Lovable, and even not yesterday, 2 days ago, I was thinking about in my school creating classes. So every year when kids enroll, we ask the parents, do you have other children that you'd like to make sure that your child is with? And then we take that into account, and we take gender into account, and and all these other things. So I built this little app called Class Creator Pro, and basically this is just dummy data in here now. But you upload a CSV of what grade they're in, what their gender is, and do they have any friend requests? And then you say generate lists, and then it just generates your classes for you. It tells you if you've actually done a friend match, or if, for example, if I grab this person and I put her over here, so now she did make a request, but I didn't honor that request, so it's not green and happy. I'm just so happy that this is, again, it's one of those silly little pain points that I had.
And what are you writing in?
I'm not writing a damn thing. Sorry.
Well, but I mean, what
Lovable.
language is it using?
Lovable.
Lovable is the protocol. It's not like it's doing it in Python.
Well,
or doing
it's
it in something
no,
else.
sorry. Lovable, I have no idea. Is the exact answer to you. Lovable.dev is the tool that I use to build. So this is Lovable. Right. It's writing in, it uses React, it uses Python, it uses a few different things.
Do you define it, or does it just decide what it's going to use?
I think you can, but I don't, because I don't know what is what.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one. This is the AI. You know, if I jump in here, you'll be able to see. This is the AI, and I have just been having conversations with it, and it does what I tell it to do, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like tools that we've been building with, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude and other, and one of the ones that we built for the theater program was we needed to be able to see. We have these Terranexes. We have 400 Terranexes that are deployed, and we just need to see if they're still on. Like, hey, are you still there? All the time and every 6 hours. And they don't have an API, so Kevin figured out how to use what's called Wireshark, and it looks at communication between the app and the hardware, and just measures what are they saying, and so he got that data of what it took to look at it from the app, and then vibe coded a system that checks every single Terranex every 6 hours across the entire network. And we have this little, and he's got this little spreadsheet, this thing, and we have all the little green dots and the red dots and the orange dots of when they were available. And it's just unbelievable. And I asked amazing. Kevin, I was like, how long would this take you to write? And he's like, never. I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So, and it's just been really valuable. But those are the kind of things where average, those of us who don't program all the time, being able to just think up what you need and have a tool that does it, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love that night. And for me, what I love about it is, when I first started this, and Dave, I'll throw to you in a second. When I first started this, I, of course, was thinking, I'll build something that I can sell. And, that was how I started this. I quickly realized that that's not, for me at least, that's not what these tools are for. This is to build tools that solve problems that I have. Yeah. And look, if at some point, someday, someone else has the same problem, great. But I actually started building in this last spring, hired a full stack developer over the summer to take what I did and actually turn it into a real thing for one of my apps. Then in August, really wasn't happy with what he put together and the rate of iteration. And so I did it again on Lovable, and Lovable has gotten so much better that I haven't even gotten back to him. It's really pretty powerful. Dave, go ahead.
I wanted to ask Alex if he's more impressed with the interface and how you get data into it, or the representation of the data, the various displays that you can get.
It was both. I mean, just being able to do it is one thing, and then he's coding all the look and everything else of it, which I can't show. Right. So he's coding.
It comes out with his style, yeah.
But he's designing it, and he tells it what he wants and tells it how it works. He's not writing any code, and it's just like, this is what I want them to look like, and this is how I want it to work, and it's really amazing. It's an amazing.
I can see a use or two for it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly what David said. I think that the power of this is, it's less of a, how do I turn this into a factory and sell something, and more of like having your own 3D printer for code. I need to, put, like, it was funny when I hadn't thought about what to do with 3D printing, and we were doing a show at Hallmark, Hallmark cards, and they have they're in Kansas City, and so we were there doing a shoot. And I know you think it's crazy. You think of cards, but they have an incredible, 3D printers, and because they have to make all those little custom cards that you open up and they make a noise, or they open up to do something.
Chips,
and it's kind of amazing. They have to build something that you can open up and it reliably works for 3 cents. For 3 pennies. They have to design a circuitry and everything else, but they build all this stuff and they test it. But what did they do when we got there? He was like printing something for his home overnight or whatever that was like a piece that would fix the pipe, because they just know how to model when they all model.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I just had these two pipes that didn't quite fit, so I just printed, I just measured
An
them,
adapter.
figured it out,
Yeah.
and printed it. And then I really started thinking about and that's what I use the 3D printer for all the time, is just cobbling together things that I need. I just need something to hold this, or I need something to do this. I'm not trying to, and you iterate. You're not just trying to figure out what you can buy on Amazon. You're building new versions of it all the time. Or my son is building new versions mostly. But what's really interesting is that the coding is just like that. The vibe coding is kind of this. I think about what I want, and we're not very far away from vibing the 3D model and then printing it. Like that's the 3D models are getting close to that process.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Lois, go ahead.
So I used to write HTML code to make websites, and now there is Everweb. You say what you want, you drag the little icon in, and and it's doing all the coding for you. I'm wondering if there's a similar sort of thing where if a person doesn't know anything about coding an app, is there something that you can say, well, I want this and I want this and I want this, and it will do it all for you? Or do you have to know?
No, that's
some-
Lovable. That's exactly what I've been doing. So in Lovable, if I go back to the very beginning here, I mean, I can't even get out of it. I've had so many messages here. So my initial prompt was, I want to build an app that will create classes for a list of students. I will upload CSVs with the student name, grade, and friends that they've requested to be with. There also needs to be a way to manually add students along with their data and have the class list updates. I need to be able to set class names, associated grades, and class size limits. Boom. It built that. Then I decided, okay, I also need this, this, and this. And I added those, and it broke something, and then I had to fix it. And, and you kind of go back and forth, but it's all through just prompts. There's no, I don't know code. So there's no code at all. And it's kind of miraculous, actually. Yeah. Tlaloc, go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of jumped a little bit into this world earlier this year and trying to build an app that allows me to build queue lists on a score so that I could, on the iPad, essentially drop in a spot where there should be a light queue, be able to type in a few things and make a spreadsheet of those light queues to speed up my process a little bit. And of course, I went into it thinking I could have it be really smart and figure out its own placement inside that score and all this stuff. And so I think I went into it with too many requirements. I should have gone more simply. But the thing that I think I also would like to do is not use a thing like Lovable. Use something that has more code so that I can check what it's doing, learn how it's doing it, and then make the thing that I really want. I don't know if I'm more picky, but it just frustrates me that like every time I iterate, it's making a kind of a bigger, more bloated thing.
Yes.
And so I don't. But again, at the same time, David, I stopped when I got into the weeds doing that. I stopped doing it. Yeah. So maybe it's better to go with Lovable.
No, but you're right. It will very often take bigger swings than you want it to, very often. And in fact, this developer told me that to really be successful with these tools, you don't need to know how to write code, but you need to know how to read code. Because if you can read the code that it's writing, then you can get a sense of, and I certainly don't know how to read code yet, but I'm getting a little better. Tamara, last word.
Just to go back to Lois, ChatGPT and Claude will both do websites. If you go in and you say, this is what I want, and it'll do simple websites. But it, like they just said previously, it is helpful to just know how to read it, because like I did the same as you. I can do HTML and I can do WordPress. And I said, hey, I've got a WordPress site. I need something really quick. This is what it needs to be. And it was like this, here's the colors, here's this. And then it just gave me the code and I popped it in. And I was really surprised at how kind of accurate it was. And then because I've done it before, then I could go in and fix it.
The
But
thing
it
with
did all of the basics.
the thing with writing of developing apps or websites and those is that they give you front end, but they don't
Right.
they don't link automatically, at least to back end. And that's like, I could draw pretty pictures on the front end, but I don't how to connect that to a database and to authentication and to all that. That's what I don't know how to do. So what I love
Yeah.
about tools like Bolt and Lovable, and
Right.
even Gemini does this a little bit now with Google Cloud, is that it's kind of dummy proof, at least.
Well, and I think the thing that you've said before and you said today is that it solves whatever small problem you have. Like when I've used Lovable or even Claude to code, it's been like, hey, I've got a writers group. I want to match them up for coffee dates. I don't want them to repeat. If I want to be able to put in their name and email and you spit out a thing, and it does it. I have no need to go hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
And no one cares to do that. That's my thing. Like
Right.
this thing for this very specific group.
exactly.
Then it's perfect for that.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's jump into real quick, just a quick one. Audio First AI. So this is connected to OpenAI's new thing that they're making with this, whatever it's going to be, a wearable or something, that is going to be audio first. But this article, this is from TechCrunch. I found this article really interesting, and in fact, stay tuned, because next week our topic is going to be looking at audio versus visual, and how do both of those impact us psychologically? What is the import of each of those? Which is more important? You'll be a little surprised at some of what we're going to learn. So here, the title of this is OpenAI Bets Big on Audio as Silicon Valley Declares War on Screens. You've got the Ray-Ban smart glasses, which has the 5 microphone array. You've got this OpenAI thing, whatever they're going to be coming with. What was that? The humane pin that came out. I mean, is this the death of screens? Is just the talking interface, is that the future here?
I think that there's a place for it. I don't know if it's going to really replace screens. I mean, because there's sometimes we don't want to talk. That's the problem. Is there's a lot of times when I'm trying to figure something out and I don't want to say something. I'm in the middle of a conversation, or I'm somewhere in somewhere that I don't want to like talk about all the things I'm thinking about. Like I'm trying to figure something out. I don't want to bother everybody or even share what I'm doing. So there's definitely a place for, I think, for texting. That's why we text so much. Right. But I do think that there is this. I have a with ChatGPT. When I push in, and I ask for Siri, what I do is I push in and go Janet. And Janet's from the Good Place, and it automatically takes me to ChatGPT and puts me in voice mode. So, and I do that a couple times a day, at least, maybe 4 or 5 times a day, and I'll sit there and just be like, I can't figure something out. And I just go, Janet, this is what I have. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to get done. How do I blah, 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 blah. Or I was listening to, like, I don't know, driving down the road, I was listening to Asia, those of us who listen to pop songs in the 80s. I was like, I don't know anything about that band. And so Janet went off and told me lots of things about Asia, or I take pictures of my food and I go, I don't know what this is. Like we have one of those things where the box comes from a farm and you get random stuff and you're like, I don't even know what this is. What is this? How do I cook it? And boom, it's there. And so there's a whole bunch of things that I do that are just voice only that I think this would work well for. I just don't know if I would put another piece of hardware in. And I think that the thing that Apple has figured out is, I don't know who else I'm going to tell other than Apple. Like, and I have to say that I'm, I'm in full disclosure. I start working for Apple on Monday, so I just need to say that. But I don't. But I've said this on shows for the last couple of years, is that I don't know. Like, I think we have a trust issue of what else are you doing with that data that's a problem.
Yeah. Lala, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, at this particular stage, I say absolutely not. Keep the screen and keep the text, because I can't stand the way AI sounds. Like, I cannot
Really?
stand
Still?
it. It sounds it sounds to me like fingernails on a chalkboard.
And which
And
voice are you
so-
using when it's talking?
This seemed
Any
to,
voice, I can hear it on anything that is made by AI at this point.
Because I love the
I immediately
ChatGPT
know.
voice.
I feel like that was one of the things this article addressed, though, is that one of the reasons that they're doing this is to make AI sound. That's one of the things that they're trying to solve, is making AI sound more realistic.
Yeah. Okay. I hope so, because it really hurts my ears, and it's all over. It's all over YouTube, and
Agree.
and it's like there's. I think it's the top edge of the waveform is cut off, and I can hear that. I don't know if I have overly sensitive ears.
I know what you're
but-
talking about. It almost sounds like sibilance.
Yep.
Yes. And
And it isn't just
really
the-
hurts me.
It isn't just the voice; it's also the pattern of speech.
Yeah.
But
Like,
yeah,
it's unhuman.
But for me, it's an audio thing. Like, it's literally an
A
audio thing that
buzzolence. Yeah.
throws me.
Yeah.
Well, if
And-
you
and it-
spend all your time in
and
an
so
opera
if-
house, you get better at hearing your voices than what they can do.
It's not very good in
And
opera
so-
if you can't hear well. Yeah.
And so the issue I run into is, if you're going to take away my ability to text, then I might have to listen to this thing. I realize they might get better, but right now, no.
Yeah.
Like, I literally tried interacting with ChatGPT on voice, and it was great if there was a lot of noise around me, like I'm in the car. But if I'm just me and Chat, I can't do it. I have to do text.
Tony, what do you think?
I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing that I would argue is that I think it's a track back to our roots in terms of the way in which we originally learned, and it was through voice. And I think that is part of the way in which, because this visual thing, which I love, is a relatively new thing. And so, if you even go back to as far as radio, but you can go back to ancient times and the griots and the orators and those people who everything was by the spoken word. And so it may be a return to that. And for some people, I think that is an effective way to learn. I personally love learning through video, but I think that there is still a place for the audio experience, and that there are some people that is probably the most effective way to go.
Well,
I guess
save that for next week, Tony. I'm coming to you right after this. Save that for next week, Tony, because we're going to get into that. Sorry, Alex, and then Tamara.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say is that what's really powerful for me is, whether it's video or audio, it's that it is generated contextually with the need that I have at that moment. So what I don't want to do is watch a video on YouTube about how a CP950 works from Dolby, when I'm sitting in a theater. What I need to know is, what does this knob do? And I don't, and I find myself, like with Notebook LM, I put manuals into it. And then I just can ask questions. So if I'm trying to figure something out, I just throw the whole manual into Notebook LM, and I go, okay, where's this? Where's this? Where's this? How does this work? And almost all the time, it is managing like all the things that I needed to manage it's not randomly going out to the internet. It's figuring out based on the context that I gave it, to figure out what the answers are for me, so I don't have to be leafing through 400 pages of something to figure it out. And I find that to be just, the speed at which, because I think that, like, the generation of content that AI does isn't very good. Like this gets back into like the whole thing, because it's the average of all of us, not the best of all of us, And so, but on things that I'm not very good at, it's really good because it's better because I'm way below average on a whole bunch of things. And so I think it's just so, I found like it just speeds things up so much, for me, as far as how I iterate and how quickly I learn something. And most of what I use AI for is very practical. So I know whether it's hallucinating or not, because it either works or it doesn't. Like, like it either there's either a button there or not, and that button does what it told me it does, or it doesn't. And I know really fast. And so, and I just find that it just saves me so much time.
Absolutely. Tamara.
I think I will always be text first and then video, but I will go to my grave making a case for improving every aspect of technology for an accessibility purposes. And I think that fixing the audio problems and doing something from an audio first point of view really opens up the accessibility for a lot of people who can't access text and who can't access video. So I do think that, again, that's not where I gravitate towards, although I do have specific use cases, but I will forever say we should be looking at every single thing that can give people access to the world around them in a way that works for them and to improve it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Tlaloc and Lois, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, of course, when Tony Mobley speaks, I realize where I'm missing what I'm thinking. And that is, yes, audio is super important, and it is how I learn particularly. And I think that's another reason that it's so important for me to have really clean audio, because I grew up as an only child with two psychologist parents. So it was all talking all the time. And so listening is super important to me. I listen to audiobooks all the time, but those are like human beings being recorded incredibly well. And it is a super awesome direct knowledge kind of way for me. And that doesn't happen when I hear that other thing. And so I think that once they get that fixed, sure.
Lois.
So I think that having it input one way and output the other way is what my preference is. I like to dictate rather than type. And so, but I like to read rather than listen. And so I'll talk to something and ask questions, and then I'll see what it has to say by looking at it.
We're going to have a lot more to say about this next week, so definitely come back. All right. Time, identity, and the myth of the reset button. I'm just going to start with this question. Technology never lets us pause. How do we begin again? Here we are. It's the new year. This is the time when we all want to start over, a fresh start, a clean slate. Can you really do that when you've trained the algorithms, when you've got your browser history, when all of these technologies that are so vital and so helpful, when OpenAI introduced a memory, right? That was such an important piece. But can I start anew? Lois, start us off.
Well, I don't think there's that much difference between trying to start anew today and trying to start anew 20 years ago. I mean, people know who you are. Unless you're going to change your identity, move to a new city, get a new name, and start over, you're always going to carry with you your past. Now, it might be that there are algorithms following me around that I don't know about, and personally don't care about.
Oh, they are.
but I don't see it as a problem, David.
Okay. What about this idea of trying to begin in ChatGPT? So I've set up projects in ChatGPT for different things that I always come back to. And when I go into that project and I start a new chat, I know that it's going to have the history of all of those other things. But the truth is that unless I very intentionally go into an incognito window and I'm not logged in, that history is helpful, but I also can't really escape that history. I can't escape. It's very hard to escape even things that you might consider to be private when they are shared on social media with friends or family. And I go ahead.
And how does that different from you're going to take a new job, you got in a new place, you got all these different people around you, and still your brother knows who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Well,
Alex, Tony.
I think that there was a portability. I mean, people went to America, people left their little town, people, they wanted to restart. And I think that it was, it's gotten less and less easy to be someone new. And I think in some cases that's for the good. And so some people who were bad actors that were able to just kind of be someone else somewhere else. But I do think that there is a downside for anyone. And I guess I have been fortunate enough to be on air in some way, shape, or form for 35 years. And as a result, only a handful of times am I lazy about what I post online. So I'm, and I paid for a couple of them, like that I've said something that, that came back to haunt me 8 years later, and so to your point, like I was working for a client and I had said something about that client a long time ago, 8 years before. I forgot I even said it. And they were like, oh, I don't know if we can hire you because of what you said about the client. And I was like, I could not remember it. And it was not in Twitter. I said it on Twitter. It was not even there anymore. Like there's companies that archive everything. Even if you take it down, even if Twitter gets rid of it, there's companies that archive all of those things so that you can't, they take it, they do a snapshot it all the time. And I was like, when they said that I said something, they said, oh, we won't talk about what it is. And I never say anything that bad on Twitter, but I was just like, okay, I don't have any idea what I said. And then I had to dig back and go into like all kinds of these archive systems. And it was a little rough, but it wasn't like a horrible thing. But the point is that but that tightened me up a little bit, maybe a decade ago. But I will say that I'm careful. I'm careful about, if you look at my Twitter, you're not going to see a lot of religion or politics, or every once in a while around technology, I'll get a little edgy, around, political stuff, but I generally stay out of the mix. And I think it's learning a new muscle. And unfortunately, I think now my kids stayed off of social media, most of social media forever. I mean, up until now, and they still aren't really, if you don't get hooked on it early, it doesn't seem like the current state of social media is so messy now. I have found if kids don't get hooked into it, or if someone doesn't get hooked into it and they get into it now, it just seems like rotten chaos. We're used to it, so we know how to, but they're not. They're like, I don't know. My friends are crazy. They're looking at it all the time. I don't know if I really want to play, And so I think that might be the next generation, is not being that interested in that or not posting it. And a lot of it has moved to DMs. But I did notice that there was a program called Path a long time ago. It was like you could only have 50 friends.
I remember
and
that.
The goal was to have it be more personal. And I started sharing stuff, just pictures of my kids and something that's a little bit more. And then I just, there was something about it that flipped a switch for me. And I went, oh, this isn't safe. Like I shouldn't be doing this. Like I shouldn't be posting things about family on, that are not. So I call myself my name on every social media. I take accountability for everything I post, and I'm careful about it. And there's some things I put up and they're up for a couple minutes and then I delete them, or I delete them usually before I post. I probably delete 2/3 of what I write.
You write it, you get it out of your system, but I don't need to share it with anyone.
I come out with the intention of like someone made me angry and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. And I think that that's a new muscle that I think we have to learn as in the new age, is to not say everything that comes to our head.
Absolutely.
Which we had to say, the most valuable thing, I'll say one last thing. When I got married, there was a guy that got up and he was like 96 years old. He had outlived, I think, either 4 or 5 wives. And he's like 96, 97 years old. And he said, I'm going to tell you this one thing. And he looked at me and he goes, your wife's going to say a lot of things that you don't agree with. And the only thing you got to do is keep your mouth shut. he goes, I would tell that to your wife, but she won't listen. But there are so many times when, in early days where my wife would say something, she'd always know when I did it, because I was like, I'm not going to say anything there. I'm just going to walk away.
I'm biting my tongue.
and
Biting my
save
tongue.
me so much trouble. Yeah.
Tamara, go ahead.
I feel like I was lucky in that I learned this lesson so early on, because when you first logged on in the old IRC days, you were not yourself. You were if you were Prodigy, you were just a string of numbers. And what we realized when I was at TV Guide, we would go into chat boards as ourselves, which was a non-name that you couldn't know, and then we'd go in as TV Guide Tamara or TV Guide Kristen, my partner in crime. And the way people treated us was so vastly different that we realized very early on that this is about us and not for us in a lot of ways. And that kind of carried on when we got into Facebook. I'm like Alex. I am myself in every single thing. But I remember being on Facebook, and I would post, I would cultivate, it was usually very happy things. It wasn't necessarily anything. And I had someone come up to me and go, "Oh, I was following you on Facebook, and it's so amazing. Like, you're just doing so well." And I was actually at such a low point in my life that I was like, this is not an accurate representation of who I am. And if you look me up, you will not see 15 years of teaching. You will see only my mostly, you'd have to really dig deep to find any education stuff, because I really kept that out of there. And I continued, my LinkedIn has always been the TV and theater things. So I find now that when I go into an interview, people will Google and see a bunch of reviews for shows that I've done. And that does impact if I'm going in for something else. They're like, "But you're this. It doesn't make sense that you would want this job." And I'm like, "No, I really do." So I do think it is hard. You really do have to cultivate what is online. You have to understand exactly what you're doing, and that it's there for forever, and that anybody can bring something back up. So I do think that I've seen both sides of it, where it has helped me in some ways, and in other ways it's been really hurtful, where I've had to like defend that no, I can do this job for you. And here's my experience, because they'll see something that says, "But you're a producer, so you can't possibly want to be, a post-production coordinator."
Yeah.
I really do. So I think it can go for and against you.
Yeah. Tony.
I don't think there's such a thing for us as reset anymore. I think that is over with and done with. There is no reset. And if you think about it from the standpoint of even if you are not, let's say, prolific in social media, if you use your Google, if you use ChatGPT, if you're using any type of media whatsoever to do searches, and we know that if we mention something, certainly we'll start getting those things on our
'Cause they're
phone as
listening.
advertisement.
Right?
And so the idea that we can do a reset, I don't think that exists anymore. But what I do think is that we can take that as an opportunity to be a springboard to, I'm an old guy, and I don't know how much time I got left. So there is, instead of reset, I look at risk from the standpoint of most of my stuff is out there. People, can find out anything they want to find out about me. So if there's something that I'm passionate about, I'm going to talk about it. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it. But because I have been through the things that I have been through in terms of my health issues and the fact that I'm the age that I am, I don't worry about reset. I worry about, is this something that I need to share? Is this something that I need to have as an important thing to deal with, to talk about? And so I look at it that way. But the idea of reset, I think, is over with. I just don't think that that's a possibility anymore. And particularly if you think about what people who abuse their children in terms of, and I don't mean physically, but I mean by using them in some type of social media or media way, as if to not be them but be their children or some other person. That is they've already sort of ruined their lives in a way in which I think so. The idea of reset, I don't think that's even a real thing for us, in these times.
Tony, what is the plaque over your shoulder read? Peter Sargent is saying it's appropriate for this conversation.
I would agree with you, but we'd both be wrong.
Okay. I'm not sure if that is appropriate, Peter, but maybe it is. I guess so. Dave, go ahead.
Well, I will agree with you, and you won't be wrong. My sense of it is, yes, there's no reset. You had to know this from the start. For those of us who were way back in the Usenet days and the CompuServe days, we learned that what you say online comes back at you, and flame wars were invented there. I was in a position to be teaching professors how to get into multimedia and use online resources and build their own websites. And I had to tell them about email and tell them that unless you want to have what you said read out in court, don't put it in your email. And they were a little shocked, like, what? That's it. And now, of course, today we know that happens all the time. I also had a professor who built a beautiful website, and he had these color themes on it that he was real proud of. And I was reviewing it with him and saying, hey, it's working real good, except there's one problem. The color green you're using is sacred to Islam. And he looked at, what? Well, he was Islamic, and he just didn't realize what he'd done. He had to go in and change all his design because he had not thought that this is going to be locked in and it's going to come back to him. So I think, yes, we're all learning that as we go. And if we teach our children the responsibility of their data and their own appearances on things like Facebook, where the face tagging was happening for a while. Somebody post a picture of 3 people having fun, and it would automatically identify the 3 people. And I had to teach my son's girlfriend not to do that because I didn't want to be tagged on those things. And she didn't realize it was actually happening that way. So yeah, we're all learning this technology and what it's doing, but it is, in fact, recording our lives. And the Wayback Machine might be able to recreate Dave out of AI. I don't know.
You just made me think about people who in their ignorant younger years get inappropriate tattoos, like tattoos of swastikas or whatever. And yes, you can get them removed, but many people, I think, I mean, that's quite permanent. That's quite permanent, and it follows you around. We all have digital tattoos. We all have ways in which the algorithms, the digital designs digital systems that are designed to remember. It's pretty wild. Tlaloc, what do you think?
Well, I think that I understood your question to mean that thing we do of like having a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
And trying to make a reset for oneself. And I'm not sure that the outside world has anything to do with that. I'm not sure that it matters, what I get fed by the internet as much as it does how I think about, resetting the way I'm thinking about things. And
you're a better person than I. You're a better person than I if you're not deeply impacted by what the internet says about you. And,
well,
I mean that as a compliment. I mean, really, I think it's very difficult to do what you just described.
Yeah, I think it is too. But I think we have to, in this world where there's already gonna be these algorithmic ways of selling you things. Go inward, and then don't become so driven by that. And then the other thing I would say is that there are generations like my dad's generation who doesn't even realize this is happening. And not generations, maybe it's not full generations, but people within those generations that are like, why are they giving me, I don't understand all these, this and this and this and this. And it's hard to explain that, well, it's built from everything you've looked at, And so it brings up a question for me about like curation. And is there a place on YouTube or in all these places where we can ingest media for real curation of the media? So is something true or not? That kind of thing. And I know this brings up a whole big long discussion that we probably don't have time to have, but my dad always says, well, there's just so much non-truth on the internet now. And I say, well, where did you get your information before? And he said, books. And I said, well, those were curated and handed to you, and you didn't have any chance of looking at other ways of thinking. And so it's a difficult question.
You just made me think that just today, Zoran Mamdani was sworn in as the new mayor of New York City, and which means that he took over, or not him, but his office took over the mayor's Twitter account. So now when he tweets or when you look up his Twitter, you see his name at the top, but they didn't archive anything that had been tweeted before he came in, which means that you can go back now and find things that were tweeted out by that office that we know he does not agree with. He has been explicit, and his name is attached to it now. And a few different people saw this today. It was fascinating. I don't know what he's going to do about that, but again, there's this digital glue that connects us to things that we have, sometimes things that we haven't even done or said ourselves in the past. We still get attached to them. Lois and then Alex, please.
So there is a lot of information collected about you, and some of it is, kind of strange. My husband was looking for warm socks to wear to bed. And so he remembered when he was in the Army, they had warm socks. So he went to a military place to see if he could find some nice socks. And he started getting ads for all sorts of things like bazookas. What? So just the fact that you are being targeted by the things that they think you want doesn't really mean that you have to do anything about it. That's a personal choice. I'm more concerned with Tamara's suggestion that everything you've done, all your history of work and everything, is going to mean that you can't get a job at a certain place. Well, I don't usually work for big companies anyway, so that doesn't bother me a whole lot. I think that what I'm trying to say is that, yes, a person can change their direction, start over, if you want to call it that way. And the way to do it is to do it and show people what you're doing. So I'm an artist. I took photographs for years and years and years. Then I started painting. Well, I was a photographer. What was I doing painting? Well, as soon as I had some paintings to show people, they went, "Oh, I guess you are a painter." So that thing of what you do shows other human beings what you do.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, and I guess my point is that in the digital age, it's not just what you do that shows people what you do. It's what you've done, and sometimes even things that you haven't done that are connected to you that show people what you do. And it's difficult to shake that and to recreate and reinvent yourself. And it's maybe, as Tony's right, maybe that, I think that's a sad state that we don't have that opportunity anymore to reinvent ourselves.
I don't think we ever do.
Oh,
I
I,
mean,
oh, I,
you, everything you've done follows you, whether it's online or it's offline.
yeah,
Your actions
but
follow
yes,
you.
yes, and Lois, and this has become, we have all these Alex sayings that that we're someone's writing a book, right, about all the things that Alex has said over the years that we're now going to remember, and so this is the one thing that I've said that people may remember. It, of course, we this has existed prior to technology, but technology has amplified it in orders of magnitude in ways that never could have happened without the digital revolution. And so that's why I think that technology piece of this conversation is so important. Let me throw it to Alex.
Well, I think a lot of this, one of the trends that I find very fascinating is there is a growing the AI. I think AI broke the camel's back in some way, shape, or form online, where suddenly everyone wants to think about analog life. Like there's this. I mean, I see it in lots and lots of different places, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or whatever. There's this revolt that happened, and it just seemed to go along with AI. Like AI was like one step too far. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with AI. I mean, I use AI all day. So I'm not saying I'm not anti AI. In fact, I
You're
use the AI to
describing a
go through.
McLuhan flip. That's what you're
Yeah,
describing.
but there was this thing where everyone was, that's too much. And you're seeing things about, there's huge channels that are all, and now with TikTok, it's hard to know, is it because I'm watching it or is it because it's popular? But there's a lot of followers following people that are like, here's how to make your own bread. Here's how to make your own pickles. Here's how to, like, don't buy any of this stuff from the store anymore. Like just give that up. And here's how to do it all yourself. And this is, and I think that people are looking for media that is obvious, like live media, like what we're doing right now. Still hard to do with AI. So a lot of people are interested in seeing live media because they don't know what to look at. They're constantly in X, for instance, people are constantly checking against, you see Grok, is this true? Like this, and they look at that. It's like the first comment of everything that looks remotely outrageous is immediately, and Grok's actually pretty good at it. Like it's not like it doesn't seem to have. He's like, no, that's not true. Or this, like someone posted the thing when Dami, someone posted all these. There's this huge number of people that police officers that have resigned, and then someone's Grok is true, and Grok's like, no, that didn't happen. Like and the thing is I do think that there is a need. Like I work in some areas where I have to put all my electronics in a box, when I walk in, and there's nothing there because it's important to hash things out and figure things out without worrying about someone recording it, like, and so and I think that we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more people wanting, analog places to go that are, I mean, there's a bar in London, and I can't think of the name of it right now. When they had to rebuild the bar, he put chicken wire in the walls. Like he just before they put the sheetrock up, they just put chicken wire in, which means that no cell phones work at all. like you can't, when you walk into that door, it immediately he doesn't do anything illegal, but it just happens
like a
to be
skiff.
the construction. It is like a skiff.
Yeah.
It's basically like a Faraday cage that you just walk into, and then he doesn't have any Wi-Fi. And his whole thing is, people come to the bar because they like to talk to other people, or they don't. He said, like, people, if they don't like that, then don't be here. And the bar's pretty full. And so there's definitely an interest in being able to, to leave that world. But I also think it's important for us to know that, like whatever you're doing all the time, from a philosophical perspective, stays with you everything that you do. And so there's a certain thinking about that everything's a scratch, and who you are, on the surface of who you are, and you want to be thinking about where you're laying trails, right. and be conscious of that as well. I think that's something that I think about a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm struck by this question from Kyle Hammond, who says, no, where is it? Go, and it's gone. I'm trying to get the question up.
Oh, hold on. Oh, there you go.
Is it up? No, there we go. And it's gone again. All right, I'll just read it. It's okay. Curious how this conversation relates to the trend of how careers are built or maintained differently now versus 50 years ago. People change jobs, which changes their lives way more often now. Does this count as reset? This is fascinating. I hadn't thought about this. That we are all not we are all, sorry. Many people are being forced to reset in ways that they never could have imagined because of technology, because of the growth of artificial intelligence, because of the way that we are learning and growing and doing business nowadays, which I think is fascinating also. Let me get, let's see, who else was back? Now I lost who was in there. Tamara, were you in the list? Who else was
I
in
was.
the,
Tony was next, and then me.
Tony and Tamara. Tony, go for it.
I think the biggest problem with this idea of reset is that the world is so small now. It is teeny tiny in that we are able to know things about each other regardless to where we are. There is no real distance in terms of this idea. Like in the past, you could actually, if let's say you did something that was really kind of unscrupulous, you moved to another state and you could really start over. That's not a possibility now. Whatever you've done, whoever you've been, that continues to be who you are in this world that we live in. And when I look at Kyle's question, I think about my wife, who, has retired after 35 years, 38 years on the same job. The young people that are in the workforce now, they don't have that. They don't have that longevity in their jobs. That just does not exist. There is a constant need to, well, I guess I was going to say maybe reset in terms of employment. So, there's always this idea that you have to evolve and embrace things that you may care about that will possibly turn into a career. So maybe that's another way. Maybe that's a way in which reset does exist.
Tamara, let me let John jump in real quick.
Sure.
Well, I was just going to say with Kyle's university professor, I had our students creating portfolios, which was documenting their learning. And I think that's one of the things that used to be you had a transcript, you worked for one company, but now each job that you have, each experience that you have becomes part of your portfolio of your knowledge and examples. And when you were talking about memory of things, I love looking at artists and photographers and see what they did when they started their profession and how their art and work grew over time. So you don't want to erase everything. You want to see that transition. And for students, it's important that they document their transitions. In, preteen, pre-20, we talk about that permanent record. You don't want that on your permanent record. But we actually allow students to make some mistakes, and we say we're going to withhold names. We're not going to put it on the police blotter because they need some time to experiment, and people in their youth may do things that they wish they wouldn't do later. So you try to protect them.
That student portfolios is a really important piece of this. You're right. For not in the workforce, but for students, the portfolios that we put together for them they carry them around with them, and I hope they wear them with pride. Yeah, Tamara.
I feel like I came into this conversation kind of knowing what I knew and feeling really good about it. One of the things that this has brought up for me is I'm wondering if we're not seeing a reset of the question that we're asking in real time, because we're currently interacting with AI that is not reliable. It hallucinates and creates a lot of slop out in the world that is just simply not true. And I think that's going to make us feel things are less true in digital spaces. So I'm wondering if when we have this conversation 10 or 20 years from now, the reset is actually in the kinds of questions that we're asking. So where it was very much which I've seen in what I've mentioned, I've seen in my career, where people look at your past and go, well, but now you want to do this, but you were doing this, and that's a problem. But as Tony pointed out, that is how we're doing business now. Every quarter we are laying off a percentage of the workforce as a just rule of okay behavior. We're not investing in people anymore. We're not investing in the story of someone who goes to work for 30 years for the same company. So I'm wondering if when we think about this reset, if some of the reset is going to be how we treat information that we find in digital spaces as opposed to it being accurate truth, if we're going to say, well, this is just part of this bigger garbage that that was from the past. If we're not going to have generations coming up, I have nieces and nephews, they're not on digital spaces in the way that I am even. So I do think that we have a generation coming up who are like, yeah, this is not important to me because there's just too much out there. And I'm wondering if 10 years from now we're not going to have a different question.
Yeah. Let's do Tlaloc, Alex, and Lois.
So when I was, I don't know, 16, I was concerned that I would never be happy because I didn't want to have the same job for 50 years. And I told my dad that I thought I might never be happy. And he said, well, find something that changes all the time. And I thought he was crazy. But then I realized a couple years later that, in fact, that's exactly what it is when you're a designer, because you have to tear down what you make, every week, every couple weeks. And so I think I have a reset all the time. I reset every time I leave a job. And there's a problem with that as well, right? Because how do you make sure that other companies that you're working with also understand what you've done? Because it's such a live thing. It's not, expanded across the wider scope. And it just takes time and effort to build relationships and have, little spindles of connection between these different companies all over the country and world. And so on the other hand, to your question, or to Kyle's question and mixed in with David's question, it's a little bit of both. There's something good about not being able to fully reset because it takes time to build a lifetime of connections and knowledge and all these things that need to happen. And so complete blank slate, I don't know if that's a good either.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex, I'm curious, picking up on what Tlaloc just said, and I know you want to jump into something else, but let me just throw this in there for you. Is this shift that you're about to go through, is this a reinvention? Or are you carrying, as Tlaloc said, are you bringing a lot of, obviously you're bringing a lot of who you are to it, but does this feel like something brand new to you?
So about every 5 years I pivot. It's just and that has been done to Tlaloc's point. Inside of Pixel Core, I pivoted a couple times inside of the company. Like I was there and I just pivoted to another business. When Pixel Core opened, it was training, and then it pivoted to video, then it pivoted to video production, and then it pivoted to live, and then it pivoted to 360 and 180 and, AR and stuff like that. And then pivot, so it did a bunch of pivots inside of the same company. But but before that, if you look what was very predictable is every 3 to 5 years, I'd be doing something almost completely different than what I was doing before, but related. And so this is a little bit of a, moving from what I'm doing now, which is mostly live production, into the 3D space, is both a pivot and a return, which is kind of an interesting thing for me. When I got into programming when I was a kid, when I was 14 years old, I wrote my first 3D app. So I became an app developer, as a 14-year-old kid trying to render a pyramid that was rotating in an Apple IIe, which was not a trivial problem at the time. Like, it was a lot of math that they didn't teach in my grade. So I was building 3D models in CAD when I was, 17, 18 years old. I, spent a lot of time, obviously spent a lot of time in 3D. So going back to 3D is kind of a return to something that I had done when I was a kid. There was, I can't remember the quote that I saw someone, I just thought it was so interesting. And it was impacted me when I was looking at taking this job. it was something about do something that you love to do, but make sure that your 10-year-old self would be excited that you were doing it. Like if they looked out forward, you know, are they excited that you're doing what you're doing? And absolutely, you know, like, but that's been the case for most of the things I've done. And so I think that it is a pivot, but the only reason that I am doing it is because of my past. Like we have to be clear that like you don't get a job doing what I'm about to do if you didn't have the past that I had. And the past that I had, you know, we talk about wanting to erase it. The past, like the 2010 to 2018 was the most grueling part of my entire life. And it was it was 250,000 miles a year. I, you know, couldn't remember what continent I was on when I woke up. I did shows all, you know, with, you know, all kinds of world leaders and all these productions. I worked with all these folks, and I would never do that again. But it taught me a bunch of things. It created a knowledge base inside of my head that's valuable. But I would never go back to do it again. And so I'm glad that it sits there. You know, like I'm glad that I did that past thing. But boy, oof, that was a rough thing. And so I think that I guess I feel like that's, you know, that there's a level of your past that what's nice about it now is that we have LinkedIn. Like, you know, and you look at it and you go, oh, these are all the things that person did. You know, I think that, like, it's funny, I don't post a lot. I'm posting a lot right now because it's the last couple days before I can really post anything on LinkedIn. So I post things that I wish that I should have been putting out earlier. But the reason I'm so nervous about LinkedIn was always because that I view LinkedIn as my permanent record. Yeah. You know, like that's my for employment. So I'm much more careful on LinkedIn than I am and I don't really post in a lot of places anymore, just because it's just too many things it's too much to manage the comments, like to me, to get back to people. And so I just kind of pulled back and didn't, I don't do a lot of any of those things. But I think that the other thing that we have to, you know, remember is that history that we're building, you know, life, I always tell people, like when I'm trying to train them on how to interact with clients or partners or whatever, I was like, life is a confidence game. And what I mean by that is that people have to have confidence that you can do what you said you can do. You know, they have to have, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to make a bunch of guesses about you, and that history that you build or don't build makes it either easier or harder for you to do the next thing. You know, and I think that that's so I think that the history is very valuable, and resetting yourself often, like completely resetting yourself. I've never really reset. I've kind of evolved and pivoted, but I don't think I've reset, you know. I think that evolution is really important because, you know, especially as you get older, you that's what you have. Right. Like that's, you know, the body of knowledge that you have, the connections that you have. You know, I think that the thing that impacts me the most is I spend a lot of time trying to make people around me successful. I'm not really worried about what I get out of it. I'm not really worried about how it comes back, and I'm not going to remind them of it. In fact, I don't want them to remember it. Like, I just want them, because when you surround yourself with a lot of successful people, and if you made any impact on their life that was positive, you don't know how that's going to impact people, but it does. I mean, how it's going to impact you, the karma, or whatever you want to call it. You just keep pushing it out there, and this is built. You're just constantly trying to help everyone around you, and that can be a generalized trying to help, like office hours, or it can be specific, like me trying to recommend somebody to go to get a job, or try to send someone something, or do something that I can do to help them, or whatever. What I've learned over a life of doing that is that I don't know what the result is. I don't know it, but I trust that there is one. I trust that there's that in it. My life, you know, has its ups and downs, but it always works out. You know, and usually it works out because of something that I did, you know, a long time ago.
Yeah. Lois, I'm giving you the last word.
Well, I'm looking at Kyle's question, and it's talking about how careers are built or maintained different now than 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Now that's the 70s. That's an interesting place to start. Let's go a little further back. So in my father's day, most men had a career. or a job that they were in for a long time. So for some folks, it was the career path was you became a something, electrical engineer or whatever, and then you took that job and you did it in various different places, and that was a career. Or you became a plumber. You either had your own business or you stayed with the same company for all that time, or maybe you changed companies, I don't know, but you were a plumber. Well, that was true for maybe half the people. We're talking men here. Women generally didn't have a career. It was unusual for a woman to have a career. So moving forward from then to the 70s when things, got thrown up in the air and all of a sudden everything was changing and people were going here and going there and moving around and a lot of folks didn't choose to have a career. They didn't want to do the same thing for 20 years, 50 years, whatever. And so you had more mobility in your work life. And I think now, today, that you're right that there's a lot more mobility than there was 50 years ago, but I'm not sure that that is the thing to look at because there's also a lot less mobility for some people. So we have fewer careers and more self-driven jobs. So that if you decide to do something different, you pivot and you get another job, that's your choice. There's also a lot of people, unfortunately, that are being put out of work. And so I know I'm supposed to be the last one, but I think Alex has a word to go in there.
Go ahead, Alex.
I'm just going to throw a bomb into this whole thing that you guys will have to talk about somewhere in the future is on the opposite side of people being able to have the flexibility. I think that our obsession with giving people generalized education from the time that they're 5 years old, and then telling them that they should spend their 20s trying to figure out who they are, devastates their long-term life curve. Like it's a devastating idea. It is a horrible idea, and it should have never happened. Now what doesn't work is to have people for us to say, oh, you didn't test well, so we're going to put you into this shelf. Like you only get to do this, which happens in the UK, it used to at least, Germany, and so on and so forth. They're like, you're now going to be, this. But we spend way too much time teaching kids things that they're never going to use, and by the time we're done, they can't remember what they like. Like that's what happens in high school. They get out of it, and they've been basically foie gras education for the last 12 years. They don't remember what they like. They can't remember what good tastes like. And I think that, figuring what we're going to see, I think in education, we're seeing it with Alpha School, is we're going to shorten the amount of time it takes to show them the basic stuff that they need and give them a lot more time to figure out what they want to do much earlier. The only people who really got away with that kind of thing is people like me that was hard-headed, that just basically, I packaged school into a little box as a kid, and I just made sure I got A's. And I literally was very transactional. I would get 91% on every thing because my parents wouldn't ask me anything as long as I got A's. I could take as many days off of school as I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted as long as I had straight A's. And so I just set this minimum of straight A's, and I didn't take any AP courses, and I just ignored everything about school, and I programmed. And I built graphics, and I did music, and I did audio, and I just got school out of the way. And there are people like me. I'm not the only one, but we got to start when we were 10, not when we were 22 or 24. And our brain is moving so much faster at 10 than it is at 22. Like it is light speed faster, and we're just wasting, so, I spend a lot of time encouraging my kids. I give them whatever they need, like extracurricular, like they can do whatever they want in school. They get A's, or they do well. But I'm just like, whatever you need about what you're passionate about, because we have to figure out a way that kids can start doing what they love much earlier. Not force them into something, but they know what they want. I mean, I knew what I wanted when I was 8 or 9 years old.
There's a big movement now in elementary programs to get all of the core stuff in 2 hours. 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Is core.
Exactly. And
everything after that should be exploration. And
you need to be able to do math in your head very fast. And that's a muscle. I'm not talking about algebra. Yeah. you need to be able to do your times tables up to 12 as a muscle memory, because doing math in your head is a superpower. When you're trying to figure something out and you're trying to think about what something is, the fact that your brain can just do it is really powerful. And you have to be able to, we cannot allow kids to move from one grade to another without being able to read at their grade level. Like that is it's devastating. It is the most devastating thing we do in education, is passing kids forward when they can't read, because the reading is the thing, and those are the only two things school really needs to do. Like, in my opinion, like those two things, if it gets those two things right, all the other stuff will fall into place. And we spend all this time trying to create all these other courses that are just, they're just filling up their kids with time that they're never gonna remember any of that stuff anyway, and I don't, they don't have to learn that way. Like, people have to learn how to learn. I don't know if this is the way that they should learn how to learn.
So we're gonna take that topic, put a pin in it, in maybe for 4 or 5 years, until Alex is able to come back on shows, and then we'll take them on, because I know that education is a real passion of yours. I mean, I've learned quite a bit from you when I'm thinking about iPads versus Chromebooks in schools, which you've talked a lot about, and the killing, how schools kill curiosity, and all that stuff. In any case, that's for another show. I want to thank everyone. John, it was such a pleasure having you here. We didn't hear much from you, but it really means a lot that you were here, and I'm so glad that you took the time. Please
I'm
come
glad that I
back.
was able to be here, and as an educator, Alex, you and I can talk. Privilege is really great, but the equity issues in schools are a challenge, and it's not the school's responsibility to educate; it's the parents. But we do damage to some of our kids with our systems, and we've got to come up with a better way of making sure everyone has an opportunity to be the best they could be.
We were talking about how the digital world and technology may hinder us from transforming or changing, but the truth is that we have to use these technological tools to transform the world around us, like the education system and other systems, and our lighting systems, like Tlaloc does. Tlaloc, thank you so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Come back anytime.
It was awesome to be here.
Awesome. And Lois, Tony, Dave, Tamara, thank you so much, all of you. Happy New Year to all of you. And for some of us, will be with you, Alex, this weekend. I imagine this weekend will be your last shows. For anyone who isn't, I will just repeat what everyone is saying. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for empowering us and allowing us to learn and do this wonderful work. It's fantastic. We're really grateful to you.
I'm grateful. I mean, I've gotten so much out of this community, and I plan to keep on watching. I can't be on the shows, but I still learn something every single day. I'm still inspired every single day by every show that's done here. And I think that this art of conversation that we've been figuring out in lots of different formats and different times and everything else is something that I don't see anywhere else. Like I watch other shows, and there's something about something we figured out during COVID that I think is really special. And so, I'm on the next 3 days, next 3 mornings in a row, and I'm hoping that people will jump on, ask questions. But Sunday will be my last day before I fade off into the Cupertino.
Fade off into Cupertino. Well, safe travels to you. Safe travels. Yes. And to all of you who are watching, thank you for being here. Definitely visit us at officehours.global to learn more, or the rundown.show. We will see you next week. Have a wonderful start to 2026.